But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
Hello and welcome to World Blockchain Roundtable, episode 102. This episode is freestyle, so we're all going to kick it off with a little freestyle rap at the top of it. Nope, that's not what we're going to do. All right, never mind. I am your host, John Branch, and let's go ahead and introduce the panel for today. Today, we've got Joe Dragon, the architect of Dragon Chain, joining us. We've got Distant, aka Dave.
Hey, what's up?
From Den, from Den, Coffee with Den, other things that are Den related.
Yeah, that's me.
We've got Satoshi Sean, entrepreneur extraordinaire.
Happy Star Wars Day, everybody.
Oh yeah, May the 4th. It is, isn't it?
How is that not the topic for this?
I know. I said that last year too.
Last year it fell on May 4th as well.
Yeah, it did. It did. I knew it. I know one of them did it last year before. Now it's like, why?
Well,
I think we're wrong for not doing that, but okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's freestyle, so we could have just made it Star Wars anyway. Yeah. Let's get through the panel. We're not setting a good precedent already. Greg, we have Greg from Rivet. How's it going?
How's it going, guys?
And we've got Lisa, Mighty Lisa, Litecoin Lisa joining us as well. And who's joining you?
So I brought Rebel Rose and Remington Justice.
Nice.
I love it. I would
They're
love
adorable.
to hear their thoughts on crypto and
It's freestyle day, so I thought, who doesn't love puppies?
I'll bring my girl on one day. My little dog, she's over in the corner. All right, so a little update from last week. The topic we had a whale world order was the topic. Each host from last week will receive 88 lot. Each contributor is going to receive 44. Darox is going to receive 44 for his last week's theme. Reminder, these ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits, and governance votes. Awesome. We did have a World Blockchain Roundtable DAO to stop the spaces, and I think it passed, I'm assuming. Nope, hasn't quite resolved.
It has.
Okay, it has quite resolved. Great. So we don't have to go over there anymore. You can stay here and watch us talk instead of listening to us talk on Twitter. Awesome. So this week's theme is freestyle, which was nominated by Joe Dragon. So let's go ahead and jump into the questions. There's a whole bunch in there today, so I'm going to try to get through all of them. Really exciting stuff. So we'll hit the first topic. This is a question from Jacob Wayne. Big fan. Shout out to him. And here it is. What old school gaming console provides you with the most quality and high resolution memories? I can't tell if mine is Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. Pictured as the new current setup at his house. First time to own a console in 2 decades. Wow, get with it. Come on. If I had continued my love for gaming, my videography business wouldn't be what it is today. I'm at the point where I can finally mess around and find out. I love it. I also like that you took the time to follow your passion that wasn't video gaming.
I like the fact that picture looks like a professional picture from the internet.
He is a professional picture taker.
Yeah.
He is a videographer. He mentions that.
So he is good at his job.
Since it's freestyle, we'll start at the bottom. Sean, what's the old school console that gives you nostalgia, or gaming thing that gives you nostalgia?
Oh man, you shouldn't have done what you've done. Well, we own every console ever made, at least one.
Nah.
Yeah, whatever it is, we got it. Obscure, Asian imports, whatever, special editions.
Nice.
I was there at the beginning. I played in television. I like TurboGrafx 16. I think that was really, really good, great one.
That was a good one.
I don't think Sega Dreamcast or Sega. Yeah, that's where I'm going to end with. I don't think Sega CD gets the love that it deserves. I don't think Sega in general. They were always better than Nintendo. They were always leaps and bounds technologically way above. Game Gear was it was a Switch. You could hook it up to your TV. You could play all current level tech games. And it had just a plug where you could turn it into a color handheld television set.
Yeah.
Which of course they didn't have lithium batteries. So it was ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
You burn through batteries so fast.
I forgot about the TV attachment, Sean.
Yeah, the TV attachment is like insane. And then Nintendo came out later with that stupid black and white 3-pixel camera and everyone's like, oh my god, it's so great, we're living in the future. And it was like, dude, it's not color. Sega's always been way ahead, and they lost, which is ridiculous. But all Sega stuff, except for the 32X, that was just kind of whatever. But I think Sega CD, when they broke out of the cartridge and opened up that whole, even with the multi-disc stuff, it was just so much more you could put in. And play. But I think
do you remember Sean? Do you remember the Jaguar game where you could actually do a custom track?
What? Oh, you're talking about Jaguar though. Sorry, Jaguar.
It was the Jaguar racing game.
Right.
Which one's your favorite though?
I think Dreamcast was the best out of the box.
We can sit here and name every console that ever existed.
Yeah, I was like,
but which one do you like the most is what Jacob Wayne wants to know.
I had to look up what a Game Gear was, and now I remember what it was.
Game Gear's dope. I had one. Well, my brother had one.
Look at the color screen. All that was like
amazing.
So that's it.
At the same time, its competition was black and white. That wasn't even black and white. It was greenish looking. It looked like puke, baby diarrhea.
That's an admirable choice. I like that.
Smaller screen. It wasn't even backlit. You had to buy the light or have it in the sunlight, and it's you could play that on the TV. You could hook it up to the TV, and then they came out with Nomad, which actually you didn't have to buy different cartridges. You could take your full size Sega cartridges and just stick them in it and walk around handheld.
My brother had one
until now with the Switch,
and you saw on the screen just now how tiny the screen was on it. That was like one drawback. We actually had a snap-on magnifier. They made an attachment for it, where you could literally, it was a magnifying glass, and it was correctly positioned, and it made the screen bigger. That was the tech.
All right, Joe. Since it's freestyle, what's the one? We'll stick with one.
I only get one. I'm limited to one now.
I know.
So now I'm limited to one.
Look, you're lucky you're getting one. Nobody else is going to.
I didn't go through any. I didn't go through 3D. I didn't touch PlayStation.
Now you are.
I just went over some Sega stuff. That was it.
It'd be a hard choice between the Atari side and the Commodore side for me. I'm old, so it'd be the 2600, a couple of 5200 memories, and then Commodore 64 was kind of where there was a lot of really cool stuff. So, yeah.
Do you have any particular games on those that you liked?
On Commodore, Ultima, right?
Yeah.
Ultima was, and there were a lot of really crazy, weird. Something that's so strange is they would have these text-based games that were either stolen or open source. Something you type in out of a magazine, like B-1 Bomber, or there was some Nuke War one that was actually fun. It's just bizarre, and I've looked for them. I can't find them, even for an emulator. On Atari, like Yar's Revenge. And then on the 5200, See, so I get to do this now. On the 5200, there was Star Raiders was amazing compared to the 2600. It was actually, it was really pretty much deeper. It was pretty cool.
Yard's Revenge is the only game I can go now. I think that's my favorite too. I was gonna say Pitfall maybe, but that's the only one I can go back to now and just play, like for an hour or so. It's not like, oh my god, how did I play this as a kid? This is, the nostalgia wears off like after 10 minutes on every other game.
Yeah.
But Yard's Revenge, that's still cool.
Lisa, what's the one you got?
You guys are bringing back memories when Joe brought up Atari. I can we were. I mean, there was a lot of us kids, so we had to ration it out, but we would, memorize Pac-Man, and then Donkey Kong came out, and that was it for us. We loved Donkey Kong on the Atari, so that was fun stuff for us back in the day.
And thank you for abiding by the question with the console and the game. Greg, what do you got for us?
For consoles, it has to be Super Nintendo for me because I played Earthbound, and it was the first RPG that I ever beat. And then I played Chrono Trigger, and Chrono Trigger was it defined my entire worldview, basically. This sort of the mindset of the odds are against you, and everything that you do could change the future. But are you going to be able to through your effort make the future change? And to me, that was just it sounds silly, but set up my life philosophy. So,
and Dave, I saved yours for last. What's your console?
It's I was gonna say it was a tie, but it's kind of hands down the Panasonic 3DO. To be honest with you, I've got some specific memories around that one, and I had one. It had suffered an electrical problem, so I don't have one anymore. But the interesting thing about that one is it was CD based before anybody had CD burners and writers and stuff. So to this day, if you get a console, if you get a 3DO, or if you have one like Sean does, you can download ROMs, burn them onto a CDR, and they just work. There's no DRM. There's no whatever. So that kind of keeps it alive too, because you have an archive that can actually still work. That you can just download and burn. So Panasonic 3DO, and I don't. Oh, you know what? Quarantine. That was the game on that one. I used to play this game called Quarantine a lot. It has the best Australian punk rock soundtrack that I still, from time to time, will spin up and listen to it on YouTube or whatever, because it had real audio. You could listen to CDs and stuff on it for the first time. So yeah, Panasonic 3DO is my go-to.
I'm very proud of you for bringing it up.
I love how everybody named really cool and obscure ones that are really thoughtful. I'm I put a lot of hours in on the PS1. I put a lot of hours in on the PS1, and
PS1 was great, man.
But I think the most nostalgia one for me too is probably a Game Boy and Game Boy Color, because so many of my trips driving were just sitting in the back seat of a car using the lights as it goes by, so you can see the game.
You have to use the lights when my kids used to. Dad, we're going under the bridge, Dad. I can't see.
Yeah,
I remember on PS1. Do you remember when they came out the mini? My son Robert was obsessed with PS1. They came out the mini, and then they had the screen, so you could take it, and it had a little a foldable screen that folded down onto the PS1. You're gonna look it up, I know. And then you could play it he played it in the car. I had to get a cigarette.
I never heard of that. That's cool.
Not really cigarette lighters, but back then they were called cigarette lighters in your car. To power it, and we'd take that thing everywhere. And he would play it constantly, and it was a full, your PS1 controllers, everything just in the minivan.
Man, I am retroactively jealous. I never knew about that, but now I wish I had it when I was a kid.
I used to.
We have everything here.
I played a lot of sports, and growing up, and a lot of our games were 45 minutes or an hour away. So we had a minivan, and we would fold the middle seat down, and then on top of that, we would bring a TV, one of those little counter TVs that has a VHS spot in it, and our PlayStation, and we would play that. Or if we went to Orlando, because I think we had Disney tickets for a while, and that's what we would do, and we would plug it into the AC adapter, the cigarette lighter. Yeah. And if we didn't have that, the trip was awful.
My son did that too, but he had to borrow the TV from his other brother, so it was a big thing. And until that's why when I got the screen, because he was like, yeah, they have a screen. Got to get the screen. It just folds right down. And I was like, oh wow, it was like one of the first LCD, screens with color and everything. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, we shorted out the electrics in our car once doing that. It was fantastic.
Yeah, my son Nick, for Christmas, like 2 years ago, he made us all got the hardware, soldered everything together. It's about the size of a Game Gear, but it's thin. Good size screen, like really good speakers, and it has every game ever made on it up until like 2000, like all PS1 and everything PS1 and before, every game ever made.
PS1 and N64 were my other two, and Super Nintendo and the regular Nintendo. Those four, I guess. But
every 3Do, every Atari, every Intellivision, every Commodore, every Sega Master, every you name it. And I think there's some PS2s going all the way back.
And I do agree with you about Sega as well. They had some cool, like their sound, their audio, even on the Genesis, had a better like bass, boomy, gnarly sound to it and stuff.
That was always the thing too with Commodore, that they had better sound chips. Like they had a much more capable sound chip than what Apple and any other.
Did anybody here ever play the Pippin?
I didn't.
The Apple Pippin.
No.
The weirdest one I ever played was I demoed at Blockbuster, the video store. I demoed the Nintendo VR headset with like Mario Tennis on it.
Oh yeah,
kind of thing.
Virtual Boy, right?
Virtual Boy, that's what it was called. Yeah, there were some weird ones.
It was like that weird 2-lens 3D thing.
Mm-hmm. It was all in red.
Yeah.
I played one like VR, a legit. You guys remember the VR dude that, I don't know if you remember the movie 1995 Hackers, where there was a character called the Plague, and he had in his room he had a VR setup with like a ring that you stood inside of, and a headset on and stuff like that. I played one of those in Daytona. They had a big arcade on the boardwalk.
That was like
there were some one-offs too that
right?
were cool.
Yeah.
Was it the first movie?
Yeah, it was. I'd never seen
on.
like that in my life on a human. It was, I remember that's all I could watch. The whole movie, I was like, are those real?
It's interesting, right? Like today, there's a couple of consoles. There's like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Ish.
We had the console wars.
And back then, it was just like, there's so much going on and different ideas being implemented and different things that were competing.
Greg
it was cool.
Very experimental.
Greg said something that was really kind of cool for me is when you played your the Chrono Trigger, and there's so many genres that are now commonplace that like came about then, like and now you have camps of people who are fighters. They play fighting games, and a lot of people hate fighting games, racing games. A lot of people hate racing games. So there's these like group like what kind of person you are. And I remember the first time I played an RTS, and it was like, this is a game. This is amazing, because it's all this. It's just so much strategy, but with action, it was something that's like never, it was like chess, but with violence. It was amazing.
It's like wizard chess.
Yeah, it's like wizard chess. It was because you're able to, use your strategy, and then with a story behind it. But like Shining Force was for me. That was like the most amazing, thing. I couldn't believe that. Immersive story with the the strategy, and then that was so cool. That was cool.
I played a lot of Warcraft and StarCraft, but as a kid I wasn't good enough to like win consistently at Warcraft, so I always used cheat codes, and it was great. I had so much fun just beating up on the AI. It's fantastic.
We should just call that setting a handicap, like in
Command
GoldenEye.
Conquer on PC was another really good one. Because you could mod the INI file and like have all these random units. You have like a super dog that would just like jump halfway across the stage and can take out tanks if you modified it.
I remember when I was like 10, like getting a hex editor and opening up like Red Alert's game file and finding the string that represented how much money you had or something, and then changing that so it could buy more units.
Yeah.
You could do that shit back then, and it added to the fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. My favorite was when it would be the way it was encoded, that you would only have so many digits, so you'd 9 them out, roll it over, and then have to go back and edit them again to 9 them out, so you could get It was always fun.
Yep.
At least the
hexadecimals.
She's on. That's just a loop. She's not really here anymore.
Okay, I guess we need to go back.
Nerd.
To the
I'm
next
just
question.
not a gamer. Like I always thought that I can't remember when my first marriage. Like I always
Really,
thought
you can't remember your first marriage? It's fine.
Well, I wish I couldn't remember my first marriage.
Yeah, I know.
But
That was a joke.
Whatever that gaming thing that came out in the 90s, I thought that a divorce decree should come with every one of those systems. Like I can't remember what they were called, but
Get out of jail free card.
they were terrible. Yeah. That Halo game was popular then.
Oh yeah, the Xbox.
Yeah, we would have to leave dinner because he had games with people in Germany, like
Yeah, the net attachment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like a lot of people
Not a gamer.
had like ruined marriages from World of Warcraft and people having to get to their raids.
Yeah.
I had to quit. It was too addictive.
Yeah.
I got halfway through building a fence, and then a year later, I was like, I haven't finished that fence yet. I should probably quit playing this game.
Remember EverQuest?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I never played World of Warcraft, and this is probably EverQuest was before. So, but it was like awesome because it was like fantasy stuff. It's all into that, and it was online. It was multiplayer, which I never done. And then I saw stuff on the news where like people met, and that they like fell in love on EverQuest, and then they got married.
What?
I just got divorced. So I was like trying to get EverQuest to work, and the kids were like bugging me. I'm like, "Shut up! I'm trying to get you a new mother."
Hey, why not? People get married by Elvis in Vegas all the time.
Yep. I'm surprised that we haven't heard more stories like that come out with No Man's Sky. Honestly, that seems like the kind of game where people would meet spouses in.
That was a nice little trip down nostalgia lane. Actually, that was nice. Thanks, Jacob Wayne.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and refresh the questions because I think there's a new one in there that looks pretty juicy to me. Well, I Am for Him has a lot of I think he has a lot of points there, whatever it is. So let's go ahead and do his. It seems that everyone is talking about AI. Do you think AI will replace social media? Examples include people conversing with AI bot rather than a human, or AI bots masquerade as a human on a social media platform. I believe people will call an AI their friend and become attached to their AI and choose this AI over a person. Thoughts? Kind of reminds me of the robot movie with Will Smith. So it sounds a little scary. Let's just go straight down the order. Joe, what do you think about AIs replacing our friends?
I don't know. It depends on how they're using it. It seems like people ask it questions. I don't know that a conversation with it has ever felt like it was asking something of a friend. It always felt like, hey, I'm asking it just a much better Google, something that I want to know, right? Because the problem is, I know it's limited. Like, say, if I wanted to go and ask the chat, if I was like, "Oh, did you see what happened last night?" It's like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to talk about that." So it would be way too censored or limited to talk about the things I would want to talk about with a friend, right? So, I mean, now if it were like, say, a next gen where it's not censored in it, where it has up to the date info, or where I could say, "Hey, what about that game?" and it could go check. It's like, yeah, and then it could tell me something I didn't know. Maybe that would do it, but as it is right now, it's purposely crippled. So I don't see it. It would be like going and talking to someone on Reddit right now. If I met someone on Reddit, I think it'd be very similar to befriending Chat GPT and say, "Oh, I can't talk about that." It might not call me a racist, maybe, or whatever else somebody on Reddit might call me. But yeah, generally, I think no for now.
Dave, what do you think? Are you going to replace me as a friend with a robot?
I rarely see you, so I don't know, man. Maybe you've been assimilated and I just don't know it. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. We had sort of a marathon episode on Coffee with Den, and I was really interested in some of your experience as an improv artist and a writer, because I didn't think that it had gotten as far as it apparently has, where there is, like even several months ago, you and I tried out some initial GPT-3 prompts to try to get it to write some humor, some comedy, some stuff like that. And it just kind of failed miserably. But apparently now it's just leaps and bounds beyond that. So the rate, if it's gone from can't do humor to, oh shit, that's hilarious, and that might replace a comedian, that's scary, in a few months, then man, I don't know. Like, give it 10 years. Shit, dude. I don't know. It seems plausible that people are going to have, people have meaningful relationships with a pet spider. You know what I mean? So yeah, probably people are probably going to have AI friends. They're probably going to have them as, a pet. I am in chat asks like how long before someone marries their AI bot. Yeah. So social media though, this is something with Den that is, we're always experimenting with what's possible that hasn't been done yet, as far as like our strategy for anti-bot or dealing with bots, at least making a bot exhibit the behavior that's useful to the community instead of preying on the community or using it in the way that like you see on Twitter and Reddit and Facebook and stuff like that. Joe said something about talking to somebody on Reddit. You might be talking to a bot. You don't know. There's so many bots. Yeah. You know what I mean? And companies use these to inflate numbers and stuff. So
I'm glad you brought it up, Dave, because Amanda, I put a link in the private chat just to take a break after you're done. I watched this last night. I'm like, we have to play this.
I'll check that out. Yeah,
it's a commercial play. It's a commercial made completely by AI, and you know how we talk about how great it is and everything, but how the faces are messed up. This will haunt you. But Amanda, if you play that when Dave's done, it's kind of hilarious. It's very funny.
So yeah, I don't know if it'll replace social media. I think it'll definitely live on social media. It'll be an entity that is like kind of an interesting use case for an NFT now that I think about it. Because how do you identify a particular AI if not by, a non-fungible traceable token or something like this token is that AI? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. It's because Dave talked about something that we were talking about yesterday, where a friend of mine wrote an app that you can improvise with, so you can do like made up comedy scenes with an AI, and the AI is just hilarious, and it's just so funny and it feels so real. And I think what happened is we're better at asking the questions and modeling the AI, right? So we can basically groom a friend to be exactly what we want our friend to be like, which sounds scary and awful. And then I am asked, when are we going to start marrying our AI? I'm like, at a certain point, this is an AI that you groomed to be a certain way for you to fall in love with.
I think people are doing that more and more now, just in general. They're creating those bubbles of everyone that thinks like me, everyone that agrees with me, everyone that's politically like me. And then everything with AI has been doing that to us. The limited AI we had with our feeds and connecting us to the same people, showing us only what the things it thinks we want to see.
Yep.
So it's been doing that to us for a long, long time.
Yeah, but I'm still a human and not a robot. Like I also have a little
bit.
But
have you been on Reddit? Because how many of those people?
I don't use the R word.
It's the opposite of the Turing test. Is like at what point can a human be indecipherable from or indistinguishable from an AI?
That makes sense.
Because that's what's happening on Reddit.
So that means don't go to Reddit and use Den. I don't use the R word anymore. I only use Den.
Yeah, I would say don't underestimate mental illness. People, Sean makes the comment of people are going to marry their car or whatever, but I think we are frequency. Human, the human condition is there, and you can feel frequency and connect with people when you meet somebody and connect with them. And if we get away from that, then humanity's in trouble.
We have got away from
Cool.
that.
If you want to go ahead and I guess.
Oh yeah, no,
we can play it while they're talking.
The audio though is part of it though, because the audio doesn't work. The audio is part of it because it's an AI voice that sounds super real.
Yes, it does.
And it's like it's kind of creepily like okay, it needs a little bit of work, but it's creepy.
Wait, the video and the imaging is also AI produced?
Yeah,
the whole thing.
AI. Pepperoni hug.
Family, but with pepperoni and cheese.
You should share the tab if you're gonna play the
That's too
audio.
funny.
Yeah. Well, you can go check that out. We can drop the comment. Drop the link.
We had so many examples of this now. What he's talking about, if people are going to marry their AI, there's been like 10 movies in the past 5 or 10 years about that. Lexi, the one with Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, it's supposed to have been like thought provoking, but I think it's definitely going to happen. But here's the caveat where I think a lot of people, I wouldn't even say most people anymore, but a lot of people, that weird like 55%, 45% thing. Every science fiction show, movie, whatever, whenever someone has an android or whatever it is, they always are like, but you're not real. Oh, it's great, but you're not real. And I think people are always going to have that because that's ingrained like into the DNA. Like we can have people affect our minds. We can be programmed. We can be influenced. But there's that's just in there. Like it's not real. No matter how much it feels like it is, and no matter how much it's programmed to be, like that it's not. And also there's bad stuff I think with that, because also with us we have certain things that we keep in check. Lines that we don't cross. No matter how mad you are at someone, you can't hit them. If they're not real, those lines, and once you go break those lines, especially because we're not there yet. So I think if I have a person that looks like a person, is programmed to have feelings and emotions, and they're almost indistinguishable, like their job is to be your friend, and then you beat them or you do something that is like crazy, would be, you know what I mean? Like that.
Is that more because it's AI versus like some weirdo with a blow up doll? You know what I mean? Like why is that more significant? It's still not a real person.
Yeah. Well, what's going to happen when people, like you had a narcissist that trains an AI to accept their what's that going to do to that person and their reality, and then how they interact with other people? There's going to be some really extra dimensional psychological crazy stuff happening.
People are going to get warped. We've seen it just with people with like certain jobs. If you have a job with like massive authority, and then you're in the real world, and it's hard for people to accept like a 17-year-old giving them crap from behind a counter. They're like, we've already seen that throughout history. So I think if it's like on a mass scale, we're talking about video games, I think all of us can admit that we have done something in a video game that's like, oh, I can't believe I do that. I feel embarrassed. I do that.
Yeah.
Glad no one saw me do
twist,
that.
Though.
The twist. But you still have that little feeling of guilt, and that's not even anywhere near the stuff that we're talking about with like an AI or an Android or something 5 years from now, maybe. So I think we're not ready for the psychological things that we have to go through when we get that. And I definitely think people are going to be marrying their AI and trying to do that kind of stuff because it's already being talked about. It's already out there. There's so many, like I said, movies. There's so many discussions about it already. And to be able to have me, at least to have this conversation, this is going to be wacky, but she doesn't understand this, that like I said sometimes that I wish I was gay, and that, like my nephew said it. And then Lisa's like, what do you, she doesn't understand. I'm like, if I could not have to deal with the things about women that like we don't understand are like different, if I could have like my best friend who I love, and who's a good looking guy, if I had an attraction to him, like easy. And then
maybe you need to meet cooler chicks, dude.
Well,
Yeah, I was gonna say, why is that different? Because it's
There's cool chicks out there too.
Well, you know, to me, I think that the real twist is going to be when we have AIs trained to be emulations of our best friends who are maybe not around anymore. Like, so I grew up with my granddad next door, right? We were best friends. He died in 2001, right? But if there were an AI that was trained off of everything that was ever recorded of the man, and it could emulate him pretty exactly, I think I would go back to being friends with the AI. You know, like it will learn to copy us in ways that are very personal.
Greg,
when that happens, I think you're going to see people preferring their friends who they left behind or who are no longer the way they are. I think that's going to happen.
That's already here. I did a whole review on that from like months, like probably 2 years ago, and it's real because
I know
it's not cheap. It's not cheap. It's like $250,000 to like $2 million.
But like when it's cheap and everybody can have access to it, yeah.
But it's not like it's not made from recordings. It's you have to go and you have to connect to an AI. It asks you. I mean, it takes like weeks and weeks of your personal interaction.
Yep.
That it creates you or the person, and then when you pass, then you have that to give to your and. I mean, and that's been around like what was the Will Smith one? iRobot.
iRobot, yeah. Let's get a couple more people in on this too, because we've been talking about this a lot. Joe, it looked like you had something to say there. What do you want to say?
Oh, nothing. I mean, yeah, that's a Jarrell thing. I've seen a bunch of stuff on 4chan where there was a leak that Facebook is working on without permission, building dead people.
AI simulacra, right?
Yeah. So there's something going on there that's controversial, and they had some people quit over it because apparently they are doing some weird stuff with it. If it's to be trusted, which who knows? It's just an anonymous person. So anyway,
wow.
I wouldn't think that you'd ever be able to get it right. It's like, okay, you're gonna have the tuning. It's like, wait a minute, Grandpa wasn't a communist. It's like, why is he telling me? Like, how would you deal with that stuff? Because they would never.
Well, I mean,
never
Elon
let
Musk,
you
right,
encode Grandpa's
is going to build Truth GPT,
psyche.
right? So we're going to have an unfiltered black box model pretty soon.
It'd be nice.
That would be like next level. Like if that was around and it was like real, and people would go, "Oh, Grandpa, you know what? I need advice on this and blah." If someone can hack that, like the government, and they're like, "Oh, you should probably do what the government wants, there, buddy."
It should be required by law that it has to have a crystal interface. So it'll be like Jarrell. You have a hologram, and he's telling you, "Is like, oh, son."
Yeah.
Right? I feel like Ask Jeeves is going to make a comeback in the future. We'll see.
Everybody's going to be friends with Jeeves.
It'll be great. Dave, anything else you want to say on this topic?
I was going to say that's an interesting concept, that Greg launched off into there, because I just read a book a few months ago called The Terminal Experiment, and it was similar. It was like AI stuff, but they actually figured out a way to map someone's neurons in their brain to literally not train someone on someone's personality as that person wanted to be remembered. It was literally your brain mapped in neuron for neuron, right? Kind of thing, which is interesting. If something like that were to happen, you could actually, Joe made the joke about like, wait, Grandpa wasn't a communist. You might actually be able to find out things about people that you never would have otherwise if you were able to literally read someone's mind with stuff like that, and then take that and shove it into an AI and be like, there's your person. I don't know. It's a little creepy. Yeah, it's so real now.
The problem though is that nation states will get a hold of that. It's like, wait a minute, we have to figure out who actually killed this person. Let's run through. All the
for sure. They were as far back as like a decade ago. They were working in Japan on training people on like simple images. Like an orange.
And by the way,
a banana.
That would be the excuse. That'd be the declared excuse. We're going to just figure out who killed this person. You all agree with that, right? It's like, wait a minute, thought crime.
Yeah. Well, they were making progress with, being able to basically detect what people were thinking about by training people and then recording what their brain looks like when they think about a banana or an orange or an apple. And then they had a pretty decent success rate with like, okay, now go think about this thing. Now go think about that. And they were able to detect, oh, you're thinking about this. Oh, you're thinking about that. So there are pushes in that direction the mind reading part.
I think that'd be really interesting on another level, and Lisa kind of talked about it too, is that humans give out this frequency, people believe, right? And I think this is a way to prove whether or not a soul exists. If you can just download a person's neurons and they still exist and you can still talk to them and do all those things, then what are people? Is there a soul aspect? And then if you were to go and ask a person who's been uploaded to a whatever and then go through their thoughts, is it really the same person and the same thoughts without the soul? Or are we asking not the person anymore? Are we not actually seeing the real truth in what's going on because there is no soul aspect? Because maybe their mind is altered because that little piece of them is no longer there. Like,
you guys familiar with the teleporter experiment question?
Yeah. Kind of, yeah.
So the idea
is why I don't like teleporters.
You go into a teleporter and it seems to work all the time because you always wake up on the other side. And then one day you get into the machine and it doesn't seem to work. And you get out of the machine, you go, what's going on? And they show, oh, it worked just fine. It just didn't destroy the local copy here. Don't worry, we're going to take care of it. You're going to be dead in a second. Because the copy on the other side totally made it, but we can't have two copies running around.
And that would be my response to John's, question was like, is that a copy or and if you were able to prove a soul or not, does that break everything? Like what you were saying yesterday, you have this friend that made an improv bot that was able to interact with humans successfully. Well, that's just one other step away from like another bot interacting with each other to do a whole show. And that breaks the whole industry, so it's going to break shit.
There's an open source book by Strauss called, I think it's Scratch Monkey. And it was interesting because it would reprint the body, but the important part was the consciousness or the neural map. And the interesting thing about it was, though, if you were routed through the center, and I can't remember if it's the galaxy or some galaxy group, that the comms time would take long enough that you would essentially be bogged down in your journey, even though it's just digital. It was pretty cool. Anyway, but it was similar, and it had the whole thing where it had to destroy on one side. But
the last season of Picard, everything that y'all are talking about, all wrapped up in one.
I guess for me, like if you do the neuron print or whatever, or the recreate the mapping of the brain, that's just a snapshot of that person in time. It's not that person. We're always learning. We're always like the person that I am right now is not the person that I am right now.
Right.
In the next moment, I'm never this same person ever again. So even
a copy of you, right, could be different.
It's in the next moment. Yeah.
Like Heracles said, you never step in the same river twice.
Which by the way, if ChatGPT, if it were me, I would say you would select your own filters. We talked about this before. I don't want political filters. I do want social filters, whatever. It'd be up to the person talking to the ChatGPT. But the interesting thing is it could literally fork, and you could still, we should be able to talk to an older version to compare to A/B test. And I know they do that to some level, but it would be a great interface. So,
well, there's some things that just are like, let's say you have a painting, and they're not really fakes. They're copies that you can buy that are really, really good copies. But let's say you have a copy, whether it's from an actual artist or it's some kind of technology that can create an exact duplicate of another painting. Something, it's like hundreds of years old, a masterpiece, but it's indistinguishable. It's absolutely perfect. It's not that it's still not the same one. If you mixed them up, like no one would ever know unless you did like a carbon dating. That would be the only way. So it's not the same thing. So if you were to make a person and you download it, it's still not the same thing. It's not the person. And without what Lisa said is like complete. That's perfect, because from the second on, they're completely different people. Even if they're in the same room, if they're still seeing different things. There's tiny little things that make them different, and make their experiences different. So it's a weird question, though. It is, but it's just there's certain. It's like you can't explain why. It's not. It's like this is the same painting. Everything about it is the same. Nothing is different except the age, but there's no way you can tell that. It's like, no, it's not. That's not it. That's not the masterpiece. Even though the masterpiece work is there, it's not the masterpiece.
Well, that's great. So it looks like in the future we'll all just be trying to figure out what a person is and things like that. So all those fun drugs from the 70s are going to come back. It'll be great. I'd love to move into that was a pretty heavy discussion. So I'd love to move into Dave's game. Dave
lighten it up for a second.
Yeah, because it's Dave's game because it's freestyle week. So
I ran with it. I like an hour ago or so. I was like, let me just throw. I got like a 4-question thing. So I like nerding out on tech. So I wrote some questions inspired by the hosts that are on World Blockchain. I ran out of time, so I didn't get to everyone. Not all of you are in there. But it's pretty simple. Mute your mic. I don't have a buzzer set up, so mute your mic. And then if you want to buzz in, just unmute your mic and say your name so I know who's buzzing in, kind of thing, right? So there'll be 3 parts to each question. First one is just answer the question, which is name that tech, right? Name the tech being described, like Jeopardy style. And then for bonus points, you can name which host you think inspired me to write that question. And then another bonus part would be to name a project that is using that particular tech. And so if you buzz in, you get all 3 shots at it. If you don't know the bonus one, somebody else can steal. Clear?
What inspired you on these points?
Numbers that I like to use. Leet 42069. It's just, even round numbers that are thrown around a lot. I don't know what they mean. I just see them on Twitter, so I just used them. But yeah, so you want to? We all ready? Mute up, and then we can buzz in. All right, cool. I have control, so I'll just do it. All right, here we go. First question is: this transaction privacy approach was named after the tongue-tying curse that Professor Vindicus Viridian covered in his book Curses and Counter Curses. Lisa, you buzzed in. What is this privacy tech or approach?
Mimblewimble.
It is Mimblewimble. You got it. This is Mimblewimble. And who do you think inspired this one, Lisa?
Me.
That was inspired by Litecoin Lisa. It's right there in the name. So another bonus point. Can you name a cryptocurrency that's using Mimblewimble for privacy?
Litecoin is the right coin.
Litecoin is the right answer, too. So that's being used by Litecoin. It was first popularized by Grin and also Beam. Litecoin, Grin, and Beam. So cool. That's how we're going to roll. That's pretty straightforward, right?
So did I get all the points?
You got all the points. You are elite, and you got all the other points, too. So
I want to be Voltron, not Sean.
Next question is: this privacy approach relies on a group of participants who each have keys and makes it impossible to determine which of the group members' keys were used to produce a signature. John, I heard you buzz in there. What is this type of...
I actually know this one. It's GoldenEye.
GoldenEye.
You have to use the key to turn it.
I don't. We're not talking about game. You're mixed up with Jacob Wayne's earlier video game discussion. It is not GoldenEye.
Can I throw out a different one? Bitcoin.
Nope. Anybody? Before you throw a different one out there, does anybody else have want to steal? And then we can go back to John to try again.
Lisa, I'm totally guessing.
Okay, you want to totally guess?
Is it Monero?
Monero is a currency. It is not a. I'm looking for the tech that is like, for example, Mimblewimble is not Litecoin.
Oh yeah.
Right. So
no, I don't know what it's called.
Okay, John, back to you. Want to try it again? What's the strategy? What is the technique? What is the protocol? What is the type of privacy system used that has a bunch of people participating and you can't tell whose keys were used to sign a transaction?
Is it it's Ring or something?
It is ring something. I'll give it to you. It is ring signatures. It is ring signatures is the answer. You get 1,337 points. Who do you think inspired this, John?
This was a question that you made for yourself. This was
a question that I made for myself. That's right. And I talked to Joe about it quite a bit too. So I would have taken myself, and I would have also taken Joe Dragon. Extra bonus. Can you name a project that uses this? You might have heard it a minute ago.
I'm going to say a Darkcoin.
Darkcoin does not use this. Monero does. Yep. Monero is one of them. And any fork of Monero is going to be using that too. Darkcoin did famously use coin joins, but that is not the same thing as ring signatures. You were close. And Lisa, you were right. You were just naming the token instead of the
text.
I
didn't know the ring thing.
Cool. All right. So next question. This is fun for me anyway. All right, next question. This transaction privacy approach uses a technique that allows one to prove possession of certain information without revealing that information. What would this technique be called? What would this privacy
Greg.
be called? Greg, what do you got for us?
Zero knowledge proof.
Zero knowledge proof. You got it. This is zero knowledge proof, or ZK snarks. Yep. And can you guess who inspired me to write this question? It's basically the people that are getting it or who inspired it, right?
Yep.
So that's inspired by Greg Lang or Design Heretic on Twitter.
Yep.
Follow Design Heretic for ZK snark related
say,
content.
A lot of these, but I'm going to go with my favorite one, Zcash.
All right. So this is used by, yes, Zcash. Polygon has some implementations. Pirate Chain uses it as well. Mina, Dusk, others, a lot of people jumping on the ZK snarks or zero knowledge proofs bandwagon for pretty good reason. It's neat, it's new, it's effective, and nobody really knows how it works except for, maybe a 2-digit number of people on the globe that fully understand it. I don't know. It's pretty cool stuff, right?
It is pretty cool.
All right. So last question. We're gonna go away from privacy into a different topic here, and this one is a software licensing technology that allows a company to decentralize their licensing management, usage, and security while also enabling expiration based on use instead of time-based license expiration. A patent was granted in 2018 in the USA, and the SEC is currently attacking its inventor for implementing the tech and proving its viability on the open market. Lisa, I heard you chime in. What do you think this technology is?
So this
called specifically?
Is this Veritasium?
This is not Veritasium, but that is a really good guess, actually.
The dragon
also ran into some trouble for inventing something. So really good question. The technology itself, what is it called? What is the patented thing that's that would be considered the tech that is patented, or the strategy, or the?
Can I steal or no?
Yeah,
you can steal. Joe, what do you got for us?
This tokenized micro license, right?
This is a tokenized micro license, is what I was looking for.
I'm going to test your answers. So I'll say inspired by me, maybe. I don't know if that's right or not.
This is inspired by, you guessed it, Joe Dragon and Dragon Chain.
And I will say my test will be DIN. I will say that the project using it is DIN to see if you have that. I know Dragon Chain is there, but
you know what? You might have got me there, actually. So this is being used by Dragon Chain.
Yeah, that's good. So.
And anything using Dragon Chain would be using this. That is correct. So you could have named anything. I didn't go down and name you're right, man. DIN's my thing. I should have put it in there. I'll accept DIN. You get that point. It is valid and accurate, sir. Yes. Okay. So DIN uses this to license Dragon Chain's tech, and
Matter itself is the same model. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yep. Interestingly enough, it's like every transaction on DIN, every question that you've asked on this show is using a portion of a license, excuse me, that is decentralized onto the Ethereum blockchain, and it is sort of wrapped or encapsulated into an ERC20. Cool stuff. All right. So that's Bitcoin, folks. I didn't have time to get Sean in there, ran out of time, so I threw in a adjacent reference to his YouTube show, where his intro is a take on Looney Tunes, and go watch his show and subscribe to it, since I didn't get to a question that was inspired by Sean. John, and I didn't even have anything for you, not even a slide. So
yeah, I see how it is. Okay, even though I got one of them because you told me yesterday.
Yeah, totally. So that was Name That Tech.
And
All
I
right.
still think GoldenEye
Good job,
would be
guys.
an awesome tech for Bitcoin. Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
So that could be a good full game show. I mean, that was actually kind of hard because I didn't know to know. Yeah.
That was a good one.
I like nerding out on stuff. So I saw Freestyle today and I was like, all right, I'll do what I want to do. What's up?
You answered with the GoldenEye answer with so much confidence. I was like,
that's how I get through the show.
I mean,
that sounded pretty cool. Honestly, I think somebody should invent some tech called
Bad Hair Club got a couple of them in chat too. I was watching. Pirate Chain was one of the correct answers for ZK Snarks, and then got the Dragon Chain one too.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dave. That was really cool. A lot of things that I didn't know would have to do a lot of research to figure out. So I appreciate that. We've got like 5 minutes left in the show. Let's see here.
Current events.
no, we didn't do my question yet.
Current events. Let's do it. We can just do a little bit longer of a plug section, and we can get out of here.
We didn't do my question.
Okay, we'll go.
Well, we have a whole period to talk about it too.
Yeah.
We don't always get to the questions, basically. So we can. I don't care, actually. But either way, I'm good. What do y'all want to do?
Let's see. We'll get. It's kind of a current eventsy, so we'll leave it for current events. Make sure you guys cover it in the current events in the next section. I want to get that extra lot by getting us out of here on time. So there it is. Thank you so much. This has been World Blockchain Roundtable Freestyle Edition. Let's see here. Join us for next week. Next week's theme is going to be monetization of data. So kind of what we were doing with this a little bit, but exploring it even farther. It's been a lot of fun. Joe, anything you'd like to plug?
Just watch us on DIN. Super Happy Dragon Lucky on Tuesday. Make sure anybody in DIN, join up and listen in on the DIN DAO call. Usually really good info there and a lot of good ideas passed around. Thanks.
Dave, anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, DIN, since I forgot to plug it in my little game show there already. So DIN Social is free. We got a governance meeting coming up at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific time today. That's open for anyone to join, and you can find a link to join that call or just chime in over on YouTube or on DIN. Anyway, in the DIN DAO layer on DIN Social, you can find a link to join us and talk about what we're doing over there.
Great. Sean, anything you'd like to plug and tell the people about?
Just check out me on my YouTube channel and the show me and Lisa do on every Tuesday. That's about it for now, and a happy Star Wars Day. Hope everyone has a great Star Wars Day and drinks your green milk, the real or the blue milk originally, not the green milk from the monster that Skywalker drank.
The island monster.
Yeah,
remember to keep your milk blue. And also, it looks like the chat wants to talk about your question in current events, Sean. So get excited. If you want to hear Sean's question, we can't talk about it on the show. You got to wait till current events. You got to go there. So sorry. Greg.
All right. So, follow me at, Design Heretic right there. I'm on DIN. I'm on Twitter. I'm on any platform where you find that. Nobody has beat me to grabbing that name on a social network yet. So if you find it, it's me. Look at Joe getting there crafty.
Where can we go?
He's coming up with plans to come up with faux Greg stuff. So and make sure that you go out and you support Julian Assange, who is still in prison. We need more people to be shouting that out. I saw the other day on some press corps event, Press Freedom Day. We had some protesters go on stage and highlight the fact that they weren't talking about it, and it was fantastic. We need more of that. We need more people talking about it. So let's get Julian freed, guys, and definitely pump that.
Yes.
Thanks. And Lisa, anything you'd like to plug?
I go to litecoinlisa.net and check out our events page. We've got a meetup coming up in June, and we're doing Bitcoin or cryptocurrency 101 classes every Saturday now online. So check out all of that.
Great. Anything your dogs would like to plug? Is there anything that they would love?
No, they're just here to be cute and
Aw.
tell everybody
You could still hold 2
get
dogs.
your money out of the bank, have your assets in your own possession, be safe, and lots of love to all.
Me and Lisa got our puppies like the same week.
Yeah.
And my
Minor.
my dog, last night I was making family night, and I was cutting, giving her little bits of chicken that I was like trimming, and I put my hand out. I didn't look. It is like 5 feet high, and she just stood up and ate it. And she's 3.5 months old.
See, look, there's John's dog.
Look, there's a dog up there. Yeah, this is my little girl.
Aw,
she is
she's
just
so
she is the
cute.
sweetest and precious. She's been really good. Yeah. Anything else? So if you want to know more
I do
about
want to
me,
say one thing that I didn't go to. John McAfee. Hold on, let me tell you. See what it is. John McAfee Foundation.org. Guinness actually started the foundation. The main goal is to get John's remains. That's over 2 years ago. Way over 2 years ago. She still hasn't seen his body physically. She saw like
So messed up.
his head in a room looking through glass. So it's ridiculous that this has to be done. But go to John McAfee Foundation.org, and you can check that out and help them.
Yes.
Something's wrong there, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of things wrong in the world. There are a couple things that are right, and those are our dogs. And also if you want to know more about me,
My dog's not all right. My dog's not all right.
Well, I am sorry. Get your dog to a vet then if your dog is not all right. Important things.
The vet's the one that told me your dog's not all right, dude.
Get your dog to a different vet. Get a second, third, fourth opinion until somebody tells you your dog is all right. If you want to know more about me, you can go to johnbranch.info or find me. That is not a lap dog. I don't care who says it. Deirdre, the biggest Rottweiler lap dog you've seen. Thank you so much. I'm going to get us out of here. Stick around after the video for current events and hear us talk about the show a little bit that we just did. It's a lot of fun. Check us out next week as we talk about monetizing the monetization of data. And don't forget to comment and on the thread to get your questions answered. Thanks, and have a good Thursday.
Professor Gensler is either a security.
But I would note, in terms of market value, probably 3/4 of this space has already been determined by the Securities and Exchange Commission not to be a security. Bitcoin's 54%. Ether's about, 15 points or something like that. So you're all of a sudden up to about 70 points, and then there's a bunch of other things that add up. So about 3/4 of the market value right now is what one might call a cash or a commodity, but not a security in this world.
Commissioner Gensler is either a security.
Is ether a commodity or a security?
And again, it depends on the facts and the law, and if there's a group of individuals.
I'm asking you about the facts and the law sitting in your seat and the judgment you are making.
And so, Mr. Chair, I think you would not want me to prejudge.
I must congratulate you on your consistency.
Fun way to.
That was great.
This is a good dog who doesn't like me. Oh man, why did you do that?
That was a great outro.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This has been like some real sad talk on the show with all the AI friends. Do we have a soul? And then we end the show with, are you a commodity or security as a person? Oh man, I was trying not to get too sad there and bum everybody out. But I guess also that's what people like, so that's fine. Fun show.
That's what we're here for. That was cool.
I liked your game, Dave. I'm gonna study up more and start.
Yeah, if you want random little stuff like that, just text me.
Yeah, there's I'm getting into it a lot more, especially being in the show. I'm learning a lot, and then I was talking to you about it, I feel like I'm so far behind on all the little things that it just feels so hard to catch up on. But on the other hand, I don't know, you just gotta do it.
It can be overwhelming if you try to. if you try to absorb everything all at once,
it seems like that would probably be a really good Jeopardy style, where you could, because you think about it, you could mix in, crypto projects, crypto tech, you could mix in red pills. All of these things would mesh with,
there's programs online where you can make your own Jeopardy game, and I've looked at them. They just take a lot of time to make. So, and also they take a lot of time to do. So we could do that as like that'd be like a 30-minute segment, unless it was like one question for each category.
Yeah.
Because really, when I do these, there's like 6 questions.
Well, and if you didn't let people rant, it's like answer. It's like even in the form of a question, it's gonna be faster than most of our answers. Right. It really might not be 30-minute if you had, 2 or 3 questions per category. You could probably, and making them phrase it in maybe not as a question, maybe doing that, but that would at least force us to not. It's like, oh, we just want an answer, right?
Yeah, at a certain point, we're all adults. We should police ourselves a little bit. We learned a lot.
And there'd be a fact answers too. It wouldn't be an opinion. So that's
humans are amazing because they can find a way to connect to anything. So you can say anything. It'll be like, oh, that makes me think of this time I went surfing, and I now have to tell my surfing story.
Yeah.
So we can find a way to talk about, go on a tangent or rant about anything, especially with this crew, and that's why we're on a talk show.
I learned that. Speaking of, that reminds me of that time that you drugged me up on stage during an improv show when I didn't expect it, because I'm not an improv guy, and I just kind of went with it, and I was like, oh, okay, you can just talk about whatever your brain is connecting with right now based on what they said, and just say it and do it and act it, that kind of thing. The brain, the mind is interesting. Yeah. Pattern recognition.
And then seeing because you'll never get the same thing from everybody or even from yourself, because like what happened at the day will change your mood and stuff like that. So it's really, really cool and exciting. But yeah, I got a sketch rehearsal I got to get to, so I can't.
That's right. You do
current events too long. But fun show today. I'll try to like start cutting people off a little bit longer, quicker if they go a little long too, because I really want to try to like make sure we get everybody in there, even at the top. Like,
well, it was a freestyle, so it's
but it's a freestyle, but it's not. It doesn't make it the John Branch show. It makes it
it's supposed to be freestyle for people to ask whatever the heck they want. Yeah, right? which we did get.
Yeah,
really good range, right? The questions.
Yeah, but we have a specific topic. We kind of answer other questions in other questions. So it does go quicker and smoother. With this, we were just, it was completely bouncing into different places. So
that's true. I think also we don't have to like say every thought we have on the topic. And I think like also with the question, like, trust me, I'll get to it. Like, I know that it was like, what's the one thing you want to, what's the top thing? If we answer that, then it'll be like, great. Now let's go back around because we felt passionate about this and be like, great. What are the other things that you love? What are the games you missed? What about VR? Like, what's your VR nostalgia one that made you go, oh my gosh, this is real? And then now you're like, nope, this is real. I'll get to it. And
then everybody gets a chance to answer and then go back and have additional discussion about it or whatever.
And it helps me keep the pacing of the show. So that way it's like, it keeps like a certain flow and energy to it. Because if it's just like Dave talking for 30 minutes, then it's okay.
We're also really boring, kind of behind the scenes talk, not like we're still on the show for everybody's watching. So
yeah, this is the new Twitter Spaces right now.
Yeah. Twitter Spaces. So we talk
unofficial.
But it was really fun. Even with like videos and stuff, like I'll find a way to like work the video in. This is what I do. I wish for a living. Non-stop commercial. Okay, well,
that's what we do our Jeopardy episode.
If you can pay us to do that, sure. Show me the money. But that'd be super. You know what? Or come on Coffee with Dan for the 3 hours, because that's what we did yesterday.
We did a marathon yesterday.
You're gonna go to the phone bank now.
Speaking of AI, we cracked into that yesterday on Coffee with Den, because we ran out of free prompts, and so we just went and got the open source Stable Diffusion and installed it. And we spent 3 hours trying to figure out how to use it yesterday because I just didn't know how to use it. And I know a little bit more now, but I still need to learn some more. Maybe Greg and I can team up on that. He seems to be the AI whisperer.
So we need to do our May the 4th AI images of each of us right now on the after hour thing.
Oh, Dave, you should do that while you're doing the show.
You
have to reboot. You have to reboot.
I'm on Windows right now. It's over on Linux and it's dual booted. Yeah, I know. Well, I stayed up till like midnight 30 last night with John and a couple of other friends playing Civilization 6, and I have to use Windows for that. That's how I have it running right now. So I just
can't use Wine or anything.
I mean, I could, but I could just reboot into Windows and just use
how to do that?
which is the problem.
Sean knows how to do image stuff. Sometimes.
Yeah, I could get it running on Linux. It's just that I didn't do that. So
right,
yes,
it's
is
cool.
the answer.
That makes sense. On a free game, especially, it's not worth it.
Have fun talking current events and in doing Sean's question. I gotta head out.
2 questions.
All right, have a great day, John.
See ya. Bye.
Take care.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so let's go to that actually and talk about it because it's just like important real shit too, you know.
And by the way, it is top ranked, but it wasn't top ranked when the first refresh happened. So I don't know how that ruling would happen because this is the top ranked one.
Yeah, typically
we haven't been going in order anyway from the ranked questions.
We started out in order today. Well, we do. We started out in order, and then some more votes came in during the show.
Yeah.
So it became dynamic at that point. But then yours got top ranked.
It's really
yeah,
weird. You got to make sure you hit that ED or it's a ranked question.
That's rank.
That's a ranked question.
All right. So what do we got? How could British Columbia? No, I'm just kidding.
When I wrote that, I'm like, I know they're going to make a joke here.
Be used.
Did you do that because you didn't want to use a specific ticker, depending on which community you're talking about? Oh, okay. Oh, blockchain. Okay. I don't know why I was thinking Bitcoin now. But yeah. So how can it be used to thwart the collusion between Wall Street, big banks, progressive left, to destroy the Occupy Wall Street movement for one, and to seize worldwide control and power for the others, using your my money through ESG financing? All right. Are you asking how blockchain could have been used to destroy Occupy Wall Street?
How blockchain had been used to, because you're not going to stop it, but it would have been used to show what was happening over the years. Because when it happened, nobody understood, nobody knew why. Like with most of, the evil plans, it's like at the time, you're like, this doesn't make sense. Why is this happening? Why are they doing that? They're cutting off their own nose to spite their face. And then, now years and years later, like, oh, that's why they did that back then.
Isn't that what FTX was, though? FTX exposed all the corruption in legacy finance.
That was part of the
this is like
result of it.
This is
but it wasn't the intent of FTX wasn't a movement.
The narrative was that
it wasn't a movement, but it
crypto
did
stuff. We need to regulate it. We need to shut it all down. That's what it was there for.
Yeah, I think the key would be to show what's happening with the Fed overnight desk. Really, like if you really wanted to get into what was moving where the thumb on the scales was happening. I think that's where the thumb on the scales was happening, was with the overnight desk, with reverse repo and repo, and with sort of the whole shadow banking type of stuff going on. I think if that were on chain, it would be easier to point out what was up.
Yeah. I think, and you know the truth, because I think I get where you're going. That back then, Occupy Wall Street was seemingly set up that the left was anti-Wall Street and the right was trying to figure out whatever. And I was confused because even some leftists that were maybe center left were even questioning Occupy Wall Street. And the funny thing is, if you look at, and I can't remember the phrasing, it's either white nationalism or white supremacy, that if you look at Google trends on that did not start appearing in regular articles until Occupy Wall Street. Essentially they started pushing. They was like, oh shoot, they're coming after us. So they They instead had to find some other way to divide and conquer, which is identity politics. So now it becomes everything about white and black, gay and straight, and all of the
Chicks with
trans
dicks,
stuff. All of that developed out of it as a distraction, essentially. So I would say the answer is, if that's the context, the answer is you need a system as scalable as possible to put every meaningful, not even a big meaningful, but even the small meaningful events or data points of history on chain.
Yeah.
Because, you imagine if half the stuff that the government does, even if we didn't know what it was now, we'd at least be able to look back and see what really happened. Right.
Special purpose vehicles on chain would have revealed, for instance, what the Treasury was doing in collusion with the Fed.
Right. So there's a ton, and it's so in the end, that's what I've come to, and it's my own conspiracy theory is that unlike I originally thought they were coming after Dragon Chain and me because we came out of Disney and it'd be a good thing to pin on the bulletin board, but the more I look at it, the more I think that they're after us because they want to still be able to continue changing history, reality. That with blockchain, if you are able in a scalable way to prevent the redefinition of words or the wiping of history, or you can't with blockchain. So.
But okay, so this is for people that don't know what we're talking about. There's this it's like a credit score called ESG, and that's environmental and social governance. So this score is given to corporations, and for years and years now, people say, "Oh, it's a made-up score, it's a woke score. It doesn't matter. It's not connected to any government. It's just stupid." But corporations are shooting themselves in the foot and hurting like with the Bud Light thing. The Bud Light thing is the biggest movement in the history of the world. It's the most successful movement and fastest movement now, like measurably. It's ever happened. And when you look at Anheuser-Busch, the board and everyone connected, they didn't want to do it, but they did it for the ESG score.
Right.
And what now has come out, or now we understand, is that when it comes to investment money that comes into corporations, the ESG score is a real thing. BlackRock will not invest.
That's why it exists.
Vanguard, so these companies, and this is what frustrates me, because we're all crypto and it's going to take down the banks and this is it. It was happening, and I think this made me feel like really connected to Satoshi and what he did. That back then, Occupy Wall Street, it's happening. It's all crumbling. The banks it's all falling apart. This is it. It's really going to happen. We're going to fix everything. And the people started understanding what was happening, just like what's his name said when people finally knew how the monetary system works. People in the streets. That was all coming. Wall Street banks, they all saw their demise.
Yeah. It did have that air of, hey, this is working.
Exactly.
And there was a bunch of people saying, I will not participate in this. I won't, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to play this fucking game.
So it was there. And then there was a social shift after like Obama became president. And if you think back, you can remember it, where they were like, hey, like Bill Clinton, it's economy stupid. It was completely different. It's like, hey, it's not the economy, it's not financial. It's all racism, it's sexism. This is what our problems are. We need to fix this. And there was like a break. So this group, they basically said, hey, there's going to be this ESG score. Banks and legacy systems, we'll give you tons of money. We will collude. We'll invest in your companies if you follow this ideology and you push it.
Right, exactly. If you join us, forcing a national conversation about chicks with dicks,
but it worked, and then that's why the left split. They went on that avenue Occupy Wall Street, everything that was happening fell apart. And now we're here where we're at. But it's all like it's the same thing, follow the money. But when you talk about Vanguard and BlackRock, just 3 companies control like 30-40 trillion dollars worth of money. But that's your money. That's my money. We are the ones that are funding these movements.
Right. And it's so much of it is, managed funds, right? It's the fact that you can't get your money out of your 401k super fast. And that if you do, they hit you with the tax penalty, right? Like they control vast amounts of other people's wealth because of this system designed to make it so that you are too irresponsible to manage your own money. So we put these barriers in place.
But also your money in those 401ks is being used, and it's bad that it's used for things that you don't believe in. Let's say the chicks with dicks thing, you don't believe in that. But if it's making you money, who cares? Okay, your retirement fund is investing in things that you don't necessarily believe in, but it's making you money. But it's not.
Right.
It's actually investing in things that lose money.
Right. And that accumulate waste, right?
That's the opposite of what your 401k is supposed to do.
The whole ESG idea is around stakeholder capitalism, right? Where you're not just seeking profit, you're seeking social benefits as defined by the ESG score.
Yeah.
Which
how
ultimately is one perspective on what social benefit ought to be.
How can we have privacy and free market but still be able to expose this kind of collusion and this kind of shenanigans while they're starting out to have kind of stopped it? How could that blockchain have been used to do that?
Yeah, and it's a tough question because so much of it is also a matter of preference, right? Of what we pursue, right? The blockchain is a tool. It's how we use the tool. And
that's Sean's question, though, is how do we use this tool for this?
Right. So the question is, how do we put this tool to use? And the one thing that it can do is solidify history, right? It can make sure that history is unmanipulable.
That's what I was thinking too, is, the idea of being able to point at something hardened to protect against like misdirection, changing the subject or lies, propaganda, things that are meant to just muddy the people's day-to-day reality, right?
Like after the Twitter takeover, Elon Musk got Tesla removed from the ESG board. Like they actually took Tesla out of the ESG index, and the number one is still Standard Oil or whatever. It's not Standard Oil, but it's like an oil company. ExxonMobil is like the number one ESG company.
Right. So like
thing.
One of the things that I see happening a lot is folks ignoring or dismissing what a person says because of who they are or what their religion or race or gender or politics are, right? Without listening to what they're saying in a vacuum.
Yep.
And something that blockchain can do is provide that information in a vacuum reference where you're not first filtering out, you're not first deciding if you believe it or not based on who said it, but you're instead able to reference information and then maybe look and see if somebody took it out of context, or then maybe look and see who said it and why they may have put it in this frame of reference or something like that.
The ability for them to reference real data that you can independently prove. You don't have to, what's the source of that data that you're referencing, right? That it would actually point to real events that you yourself can prove are there, right?
And maybe this could be used to focus the conversation or a movement, to keep it focused and to keep it on track and to keep it on schedule or whatever however you want to say.
I think it's Chevron that you were thinking of, and Chevron, I do see that it's the history, because a lot of these policies came before them first, and they no, they all voted all them down for good reasons. Like, no, this will hurt us here, this will hurt this here, this will hurt the company here. No. Our customers, don't like this. We will lose customers for this. So, and then they switched it after they, signed on to the ESG thing. They voted all that stuff that they had previously voted down. They voted for it. So I guess that would be
Yeah.
Hi,
So what's
Coran
this software
mentioned,
thing, Lisa?
So I just got the book, so I haven't.
Oh, you've got a copy. Cool. I don't have it. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I'm still wrapping up some of my other. I'm reading 3 other books right now, but this is my next one to start reading. Jason Lowry, Major Jason P. Lowry, United Space Force, wrote it, but it's basically talking about using Bitcoin as a weapon against exactly what you guys are talking about, like against the lies of ESG. And
this idea of instead of he talks about kinetic force projection versus like energy or electrical force projection kind of thing.
Novel theory on power projection and the national strategic significance of Bitcoin. A thesis by Major Jason P. Lowry. I've been following him on Twitter, and I think this is kind of how we get, or one of the pieces of how we get into the new world out of this mess that we're in. This is part of building the new world, I think.
Yeah, and I think we also need to have like blockchain and the resources that it can create be leveraged in anti-ESG ways, right? Like we just saw an ultimate act of ESG, right, with the deplatforming of Tucker Carlson, right? That was obviously this regime flexing its muscle.
yes.
Right. How do we use blockchain to get him back on the platform, to get him back with a voice? Like those are the kinds of things that I think that blockchain can help facilitate, because it's wealth they can't control.
That's what made me ask the question, Greg, is the Tucker Carlson. Because when you look into it and you do the Charlie Day, conspiracy board with all the stuff, basically it just boils down to BlackRock money to Fox. And the ESG score, they have to get rid of Carlson, who literally talks about how evil everything that they do the ESG score is.
Yep. And you look at how powerful that is too, because it's not like, BlackRock is just another investment fund. It is sourced with unlimited funds directly from the Fed, based upon all the stuff that happened in the past with the banks. And so it's I think patently an unfair situation for influence, and almost certainly intentionally, right? That it's there specifically. We will give you unlimited funds. You go fund the things that we agree with. It's a golden world in our eyes, right?
Yeah.
But look at the power. I mean, to say to a company, "Hey, do this," and they're like, "Well, that's going to hurt our viewership by 70%."
Yeah,
70%.
And they're like, "We don't care."
Okay,
it's been a number one for prime time for
then
years.
look what happened.
Right? And now it dropped to either 2 or 3 just overnight.
That was a big talking point and got everybody upset, and people taking action to turn against Fox and caused this awakening. People started looking around what's happening and talking about it. But then a day or two later, there's a writer's strike, and all the people are off the air now.
Mm-hmm.
So, was it going to happen anyway?
The time,
or did they instigate it to cloud the zone? Right.
Right. I mean,
I was going to bring that up too with the writer's strike. It's interesting. Number one, I think it's interesting for Tucker's positioning to there's networks that need content, that need somebody that has a huge reach right now, even more so with the writer's strike. I never really have watched Tucker. I don't think I've ever watched a single full episode. I've seen some sound bites.
You're missing out. He's actually he's spun in ways that if all your only encounters with him have been how he's reproduced elsewhere, then you're not getting the real picture.
I mean, it's mostly because I like to read more than I like to watch people talk about stuff that I could just go read about. It's just a personal preference. A lot of it's because I don't like. I don't know. I watch the only political shows that I watch are comedy because I like the jokes and stuff.
Yeah. Well, watching his show versus watching how his show is portrayed was one of the very first things that tipped me off the fact there was something going on weird in even on Fox.
I see that across the board with all kinds of stuff. I see that with when there's an agenda, especially against a certain person. I haven't watched Tucker, but I have paid attention to SpaceX and Elon a lot because I love space and I love technology and I want to advance the human race and I don't want us to die here on Earth, that kind of thing. And whenever I see even stuff like, something as simple, not that it's simple, but something as like the Starship launch, right?
Yeah.
Which was way more successful than a lot of people thought it might be.
Yeah.
This is the way that you do.
Didn't see that coming.
It's a brand new ship that's never been used before with brand new engines, with brand new fuel mixture. None of this has ever been done before. And it doesn't have decades of R&D and also,
they put a fucking skyscraper nearly in orbit. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah. And it worked. It freaking worked, right? And it blew up because they pressed the blow up button. Right. And so to take that enormous success in innovation and efficiency and, hey, why don't we do this better, cheaper, cleaner, more efficient, safer, and to take that whole thing and to see almost across the board, everybody that's like either has a show or has a news outlet or has a paper or is a writer or a journalist that's on Twitter talking about it, talk about how like, oh, look, did you see it blew up? What a big mess. What a clown. Oh, his spaceship blew up. He can't even launch a rocket. And I'm just like, what the fuck are these guys? Like, what? This is their take? Mm-hmm. That was probably 80% of the take that I saw publicly was people just ripping on SpaceX because of how terrible this and how much of a failure the Starship launch was. I was just like, wow.
Yeah,
that
it's obviously
nowhere near what happened.
I want to ask you how you guys thought about the freaking celebrities mooching for blue check marks. How freaking it's like so cringy.
Entitled.
That was moronic, wasn't it?
Oh, what they didn't want to do was say that what the truth was, which was it's not really so much that they don't want to pay $8. It's that they don't want other people to be allowed to pay $8.
Yeah.
It was all about like,
also
I don't want
pay
other people being
if you don't like it.
That's what I said, but I don't know why Elon should go fuck yourself. Why is he's paying it for him?
He did
for a whole set. He has a list of them.
It was pretty funny.
Well, you know what I think, man? Honestly, I think a lot of that is so some people some personalities got the check mark for free without asking for it as well. And some people got it after they complained about it. The price was reduced after Stephen King complained about it.
See,
and I feel like a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
Even broke.
A lot of this stuff was like, well, it isn't even about that. It's not about the money. It's not for them anyway. What I suspect that Elon is doing is taking away the thing they're complaining about to see what they're going to complain about next.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're complaining about that? Oh, here you go. Now what?
Yeah.
And then they're going to, and then you see like MIT comes out for no reason, tweets, we didn't pay for this check mark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why would they had this like negative post about how they don't want to be associated with somebody who would have pay for a Twitter check mark, that kind of thing. Linus Tech Tips did the same thing. We have a check mark. We didn't pay for it. We just want to make sure that the people don't think that we paid for that.
Or what about,
and so it's interesting to see what people like spin and complain about after you take away the thing they're complaining about.
The cute chick with the boobs who was on Charmed.
That's like most chicks I know.
She's an idiot.
Except they're not Uncharmed.
There's only 3 of them. Alyssa Milano. So Alyssa Milano, did you see what she wrote? That you took away the blue check mark. So now people aren't going to know who's me versus imposters. So all the money and anything that happens to them, you're liable for.
Yeah.
So there is something of an argument there.
No, welcome to our world. Do you know how many Satoshi Shans there are?
Yeah.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've gotten messages from them trying to get my money. It's like
how many dragon chains? We had Dragon chain, we had Dragon Chion, we had all types of stuff, and they would half the time not even shut them down. We would have to get enough people.
Facebook too, from what I understand, right? Joe?
Facebook was ridiculous. They would have people, any of our employees would have people coming in with their pictures from their profile. They don't give a shit. And it's like, and we applied for a blue check mark. We went into Twitter. We even offered them tech that could have helped them back in the day. But guess what? They didn't want it because they were already a government funded project. There's
Right.
like they're public sector. We didn't know that. And we were not, anointed. I wasn't woken off something to get a blue check mark for the company.
It's especially dangerous for software companies.
The NFT profile pic that I use has also been a boon in that respect, because if people try to copy my profile picture, I can actually complain about them imitating my NFT profile pic, and that's actually
your
violating
likeness
the terms.
Yeah.
So you can get people shut down if they're doing that.
Yeah.
So worth all the people making fun of me for doing that. But
it's a good point though, Sean, because like people that are complaining about that, that is kind of the response, right? It's like, yes, exactly. Yep. This is what we've been saying for years.
Yeah.
Software companies that put out updates on their software, and they say, hey, here's they tell you to download and install something. You need to know is that the account or is that, something else?
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that whenever you're not allowed to have an account that's verified.
Well, they adopt a celebrity. So they're going to have Sally Struthers up there talking about, these poor celebrities crying, and it's only $1 a day. It's less than a coffee that you can help this celebrity get their blue check mark so that they don't have to risk it. That's what it really is turned into.
The angels.
Anyway,
that's what
there's a question about Sybil also we could cover if you want.
Sure.
We don't have to.
Yeah. We can get
it's
into
interesting.
That.
It's super interesting.
Were you talking about a minute ago, Joe? Were you talking about Eternal when you said you had that tech as far as like validating, who it's coming from, that it's the right thing? That's the thing that you pitched to him? Because I remember that being Eternal Pro was a thing for a little while.
Eternal
and that was a way to prove something. Yeah. If you were somebody who wasn't a friend of Twitter who was able to get a check mark, then you could still use that to validate that, no, this really is me.
Yeah, it was like, say, the first quasi implementation of Factor, where your browser itself would, even if you're not a technophile, it's Grandma Smith, it'll still generate a key for you, a key pair, and that you could then every single tweet. What we offered to them was the ability to monetize the check mark, which is what Musk did. But I think ours was a lot richer, the model where a business would be 10,000 a year. Like, a lot of serious businesses would pay good money for that check mark. And it would be totally objective. Is like, yes, they paid the funds. They've proven that they are this business. Okay, that's easy. For a person, it would be less. For a student, it'd be less. For a celebrity, maybe it'd be free. I don't know. For public sector, for a senator, it would probably be free, right? So we offered them that so that when they had all these cases where someone hacked an account and started tweeting nonsense, that everybody would know it wasn't really them. Yeah, okay, they got the password or something, but it's not signed by Captain Kirk, right? So
gotcha.
That's what we offered them, and they mentioned during the meeting that they were working on communities, that they were trying to figure out how to make community feel like a community inside of Twitter. And I'm like, well, I mean, we could help with that too, because we had already started with the Den stuff. But
all they did with that is make it to where you could follow a hashtag instead of a person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
which I could have done anyway with a bookmark, but okay.
Back then you could tell it was a mess. I think probably right now it's a lot more organized, but it's still early. So I'm hoping they still do things like that. I mean, there's no reason, especially since you have a mobile app, there's no reason to not have a freaking key pair associated with your account.
You could totally. I hadn't thought about that until you just said that with the mobile app, but I use sometimes with my more important stuff, I use not just a password with a password manager, but also a key file.
Right.
So you could have like a password and then a key file on your phone, or something like that, to where it's like 2FA sort of thing.
And it can do multi-device. I mean, so there are some things that are quirky about it on the back end, but the user doesn't see that. So I don't know. And we're slowly working into doing some of that with Den, and we have a couple other customers that are doing. We have one that's live, and I guess we have two that are live that are doing that right now with what their systems do. So anyway, yeah. Sorry, that was good info.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite
real
Twitter
stuff in the real world
follows right now is the Eternalize This. I just
Yeah,
have
that's a good one.
notifications on because there's so many people that are using that tool, and so they're finding things that are like really interesting and should be part of history. And so I just follow that, and then
The utility of that in itself. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
yeah, I just
Because I do the same thing on Den with the anonymous account. Because
Yes.
some of the communities, if they've enabled it, you got to vote for it and stuff. But if they've enabled it, you can vote, you can post or reply anonymously on Den, and it just shows up as coming from an account called Anonymous. So you can go to that account and you can see what people want to say, but they're not really comfortable putting their name to it. Similarly with Eternal, like the tech itself is awesome, but just the utility of being able to follow that account to see what people think's interesting enough to save and archive and you know to put onto Bitcoin, to hash onto Bitcoin, is cool because it's stuff that you may not have. Somebody finds it interesting enough to go out of their way to do that, which is a cool feed to watch.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
I
true.
agree. I agree.
So yeah, Sybil resistance. I linked to a tweet. I was just drinking coffee, reading the internet, that kind of thing. And this account was asking, hey, what are some Sybil defense or identity and reputation that we should be following? And I didn't put in, I didn't reference Factor in there with the identity and reputation, but I did throw in a couple of suggestions for like, hey, Den, Oxen has some interesting research into marketplace-based Sybil resistance. I read a lot about that back when they were called Loki. And when they were transitioning into proof of stake from proof of work. If you're not familiar, Loki Oxen is a fork of Monero, and they've since, where Monero focuses specifically on being money, Oxen takes that to like an onion routed, like a privacy communications network, and they went proof of stake. And so I was reading a lot of this research they did on the viability and the actual like there's a lot of debate about proof of work versus proof of stake. Mm-hmm. So they're I don't know. It's like on their website or whatever. You can read all about it. But yeah, Sybil resistance. Then we have this behavior based model that is very unique and effective. There's just different ways. You have a decentralized system, you have a blockchain, you have cryptography added to it, you have a public ledger, and now we have to make sure that in a system that any asshat can jump in and play with, that we make sure that we're not opening ourselves up to like, how do you keep it secure? How do you keep it from being taken over? How do you keep it from being co-opted? And this is all like Sybil resistant stuff. And there's so many ideas about it, and they're all so interesting. So I don't know if you guys wanted to field that a little bit and talk about it.
I do. I because my thing is the interesting thing about it is Web 1.0, right? Was you could just do things, right? And there were no limitations. So I could fake a bunch of people. It didn't matter because there wasn't anything really that I could do too much with consensus by faking a bunch of people. But spam email is the biggest thing that people would have recognized from that. So with crypto, you add the ability to either charge or put some amount, it might be proof of work, but it might be actual monetary. So there's an ability to, well, you can do it, but it's going to cost you a bunch, right? Then you have an identity component that can be used. That I think we're just starting to get into that, where provable identity, but still in the end, in my opinion, the big thing is behavior, because if you can map specific behaviors to your weight in a governance model, then all you have to do is say, well, you have to be transparent, and you have to be good at measuring that behavior. So if you're bad at measuring the behavior, there are going to be holes. But essentially what you can do then is, I don't care if you have 10,000 users, if they're all doing this behavior for real on chain, then we're getting what we want out of it. So, you control these 10,000 accounts, but you're still getting the same weight as if your one account did those 10,000 behaviors. So, and there's a lot of magic in how do I say, in weighting, because you do still have some financial aspects too. But the beauty of the behavior side is it fixes the civil problem, but it also fixes the issue with whales, right? Which was what the crypto or financial side brought in. So, and if the DAO, with DinDAO in particular, and with WBRT, all of the behaviors are measurable on chain, and you can essentially, have that weight from your participation. So anyway,
yeah, and then the AI discussion with bots and stuff, that's
Yes.
something that if this is a reality, that AI is a thing, bots are a thing, it's only going to become more sophisticated, especially when you have AI starting to update its own code rapidly. It's like a runaway train. And so you have to expect that this is what's going to be on your network. You can't go at it, I don't think. You can't go at it with the idea that I'm going to prevent it. I'm going to prevent people, bad actors, from participating in the network. You have to instead assume, and what is this called? The general problem or whatever. To assume that everyone you're dealing with is potentially a bad actor, and you have to design based on that, and make the friction so heavy that it's just expensive to do stuff that wrecks the network. And it's so expensive to wreck it entirely that it either doesn't get done or everyone knows it happens once it did get done, so that nobody gets fooled, basically. Can't break it without people knowing it's broken, kind of thing is the, I think, goal, right?
Yeah.
And so what do y'all think about proof of stake, man? I ironically am mining Ethereum, testnet Ethereum with proof of work as of a couple of days ago, just to get some to use in a project that's being tested. And I just thought it was funny because Ethereum went proof of stake, and I wanted some testnet. I went to the some testnet tokens, so I went to a faucet, and they were like, "Oh, we have to protect against people like attacking this, so we're going to make you do some proof of work to be able to get the testnet Ethereum, just to make sure it's safe, or that everyone's equitably allowed to get it." And I was just like, "Yeah, I know. That's the whole thing." I got to say, I'm warmed up to proof of stake a lot more than I used to be, though.
Well, it's working, right? Like we see it working,
especially for what Ethereum is. I think that's something too.
Well, I think the earlier days too, like when you saw like the censorship or the pro censorship nodes sort of starting to grow relative to the percentage of the network validators that were not censoring any transactions, that were like OFAC compliant or whatever, and then you started to see that drop. I think we've proven now that like a market force can balance that.
There's also the debate between, well, first of all, I think the hardline proof of work people just want Ethereum to be something that it's not.
Right.
But also, you're seeing even Bitcoin is experiencing some centralization in mining hash power by whales, right? Because who can afford to throw down $40 million on a mining facility? Yeah. Some people. You know what I mean? Not everybody. Some people can do that.
But you don't need everybody
reality
to be perfect, right? You just need a sizable percentage to be working the right way.
Yeah, it's just I will tell you, as an engineer, that does bring up an annoyance, because that's the truth. It doesn't have to be perfect, but at the same time, if you try to bring up a new model or a new project, it's not perfect. That's the first thing they go to,
which is insane.
Maximalist is like, it is not perfect, and it's
right. They love to try to make perfect the enemy of the good.
Yes. Well, if it's your competitor's project,
right?
That's
and to me, that's the crux of all this. Is like, we need to start focusing on our number one competitor, right? Our number one competitor across the boards is the centralized status quo, and it doesn't matter right now which is right. The proof of work versus proof of stake, which one's better? What matters is that the cartel-based system is that we have at the nation state level, where part of the system also involves like specialized cotton fields and specialized smelting operations and like all this bullshit that comes with the fiat system. Like, we all need to be aligned against it, I think. And
yeah, what happens with IM's question? What happens with things like Russia coming online with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and basically officially supporting mining or other nation states. Not to name a
federation
particular
is
one.
better than centralization.
Where we all knew it was going to go, what do we get whenever you have volcanoes mining? Where you have, what does this do to the way that consensus network, that consensus mechanism, the effectiveness of it, right?
Right. Well, they can't dominate the whole thing, right? And federation is always been a form of decentralization.
Federalization, yeah.
Or federation, right?
Or federation. Yeah. I threw an extra syllable in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I like Monero, for example, is because they're always going after the same goal they were always going after from the beginning, and they haven't sort of changed from that. One of those was one CPU, one vote. Even though you have issues there too with, professors or students who have free server time at universities can now for free be your competition to mine against you, things like that. That at least though allows anybody to participate. And it also allows reuse of the hardware, which I think is pretty important. I like being able to sell gear or use it for a different purpose after it's obsolete. I think that that's a good thing, especially whenever we're looking at something like Taiwan being this sort of Arrakis place where everybody has to get their silicone from there to make their infrastructure work.
Yeah.
Having
silicon, right? Not silicone.
Yeah, I don't even think it's silicone anymore. It's like graphene something. I don't know. But basically
silicone
chips.
Implants.
Not potato chips, but technology. But when you can't reuse it, this is what I don't like about the ASICs is that, yeah, they're super efficient in what they do, but at the same time, as soon as it's obsoleted, like, man, there's not a whole lot you can do with it. I got a couple of Dash ASIC miners sitting in my shed that are museum pieces, you know.
You just can't.
Not to mention people that have warehouses full of shit that just never will be useful ever again. Yeah. And so,
I mean, other than recycling from the copper content, but
there's all these trade-offs, right? And sometimes it's a matter of which trade-off's more important to you, but a lot of times it's important to just which one works the best or which one is fulfilling its purpose or doing its job the best or something like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of them do that.
I think the drive to sort of obsolete these things by updating algorithms is sort of counterproductive. Yeah, like, I mean, you could argue that that's pro-civil resistance to constantly be pushing the algorithm so that ASICs stop working. But there's also this sort of maybe over purism associated with that I would say can be counterproductive, because the more economic cost you impose, the more you centralize.
Maybe, but you're not like with the thing. So what's the big difference between CPU mining and ASIC mining? The cost is about the same. I mean, maybe it's not about the same, but the cost is massive in both cases.
You meant GPU mining, right?
No, CPU.
Oh, okay.
And because GPU is an ASIC as well.
Right.
But
yeah.
You still have the cost of entry if you want to really scale that up, right? You have to do a lot of planning. You have to locate at a particular place on Earth that's suitable for the cost analysis that you come up with. You got to buy a bunch of stuff. You got to open a data center if you want to really go big on it.
Yeah.
To me, the biggest difference is the e-waste issue, where with one, you can sell it to a data center, or you can sell it to somebody or you can use it to run video game servers, or whatever you want to do with it. Render farm, an AI company, you can do something with it when it's obsoleted, when there's new hardware out that you can't keep up with the competition anymore.
Right.
And with ASICs, you can't really do that. And I think that's
one of the reasons I actually like Ethereum's approach of kind of making ASICs a moot point.
Right. So that's something that proof of stake does too, is it gets rid of this e-waste, right?
Yeah.
What if you applied, and I've not thought about this much, and it might be a stupid thing to even bring up because I haven't thought about it, but proof of stake is still a financial thing, right? It's still like I can prove it's still the history. I can prove that I control this balance of tokens, which are directly. What if you had a proof of behavior, as which I guess that's what DIN is, right? Where it's mining based upon your behavior.
It is, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, and staking is still kind of a proof of behavior, right? Like if you behave inappropriately, you just get your stake slashed.
Yeah.
With DIN, you've got DIN's interesting in a lot of ways. One of them is that you have these sort of like, so every layer is a DAO, but then there's DIN DAO, which is a whole different animal where the behavior-based stuff goes in. What was the question you were asking, Joe? Like,
well,
what do you
it's
think
essentially, I mean, I don't think of it the same way. I don't think of DIN in comparison to Ethereum, where, okay, every 15 seconds, we have a block. With DIN, we still have a block every 5 seconds, but the mining occurs nightly, every 24 hours, right? So, but it literally is, you are doing various behaviors, some of which do involve matter that you have. The more matter you have, the more reps, the more ability for you to do other things.
Right.
But
so you've got
boosting posts. If you have a good boost, then you don't spend as much.
You've got different ways. Here's what I think. I guess you have something that resembles a form of proof of stake, but the door is wide open to anybody who wants to participate in that, even if they don't want to spend. They have $0 to acquire it.
I think it's and half. By the way, half of my issue is typically translating what we're doing to what half the crypto world is doing, because they're all copying off each other. And Vitalik calls something, and that's the word from then on that everybody uses. So, and so essentially, it would be as if you were. It's a proof of behavioral stake. You're staking your behavior, is what
I would call it a hybrid proof of work, proof of stake. The work is not CPU work, though. It's your
the work is sort of the behaviorally aligned actions that you take.
Your meat is doing it. Your gray matter kind of thing is doing the work. So you can go buy up some matter and get more influence in DINDAO. You can you can take the matter that you bought and put it into liquidity pool and get even more of a stake. You can those are the two big ways.
You can come in poor and just do stuff.
But at the same time, you have this that's one fraction of the governance weight calculation. Another big part of it is literally as an owner, as somebody who owns these NFTs that we use for governance on DIN, as an owner of those NFTs, there's a measurement that is related to the activity in these different communities. For example, Crypto Joe Rogan, the new layer that Greg won recently, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh God.
With that one, if you are one of the owners of that, if you have the NFT that corresponds to that layer, you get a passive income based on the activity that's in that layer, based on the mining activity, the matter mining activity in that layer. Meaning the better and more robust and more full of activity, the more people are on it, the more people are using it, the more successful it is, the more anybody who holds that token can make passively. And so what you can do is you can take those emissions, those reward emissions from the NFT, and you can measure between two completely different communities which one is adding the most value pretty fairly, or the most activity at least, to the platform as a whole. And so the owners of communities and the managers of communities who are doing the best job and the most work to have a successful community end up having a higher or a bigger weight in governance. And that's one of the things that goes into calculating what your vote is. Whenever DINDAO that governs the whole platform, whenever there's a vote, that's the kind of stuff that's taken into account, where so you have all of that, and it's still a no KYC pseudonymous platform. It's still open to anybody who wants to have even a fake email address. I don't care. Even a bot, even an AI.
30
if you're doing the right shit, then you still get it. Oh yeah, I guess if we want to play it, I forgot about the
otherwise we won't be able to rebroadcast.
Anyway, that was kind of the end of that. Anyway, it's super
awesome.
Cool and interesting.
Yep.
Any 10-second, 5-second snippets? I forgot all about time for a minute.
Cheers, guys. It was a lot of fun.
See you guys.
May the 4th be with you.
Yep.
Okay,
Bye,
may
guys.
the 4th be with you. See you around. Bye.